Arianna Huffington is in the house. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I get a book, one of the first things I like to do, it sometimes determines whether I'll get the book or not, is read the first line. Does anybody else do that? I love to read the first line. So Arianna, your first line just sort of grabbed me. I'm going to share it with you all first. On the morning of April 6, 2007, I was lying on the floor of my home office in a pool of blood. That's how it started. And I'm like, what? So you must explain, you know, it's not, this certainly isn't humorous, but it reminded me of a time when I had a new pair of Spanx and I was putting them on. Somebody told me get a smaller size, which I did. So I'm buck naked pulling on these Spanx and I'm pulling them up and I fell over and almost hit my head on the dresser. And I thought, if I had hit my head on the dresser and I was knocked unconscious, they would come into the house and say, her pantyhose are pulled down. There's no sign of forced entry. What the hell just happened? Now, mine was humorous. This is not so humorous. So tell us what happened April 6, 2007. I didn't even know this story.
Well, first
and
of all,
I know you, and I didn't know this story.
First of all, I want to thank you so much for doing this, because, you know, she's one of the busiest women on the planet. She has to get
Hello,
about 3:30.
Miss Pot, calling the kettle black.
3:30. I don't have to get about 3:30 in the morning to do the CBS morning shows. And also, she has actually read the book. We were backstage.
Yes.
And she was walking through it, because that's how you are. Thank you. So,
yes, it's so good. Yes.
Back to April 6, 2007.
Yeah.
Basically, I collapsed from exhaustion and sleep deprivation. And it was 2 years into building the Huffington Post.
Yeah.
I was working around the clock. I have 2 daughters,
yes.
and one of them was about to go to college. So we're doing the college tour. And her request of me was that during the college tour, I would not be looking at my BlackBerry. I would be really present with her. Do you get that request as mothers?
Yes.
And so at night, you know, we would check into a hotel, wherever we were. She would go to sleep, and I would start working.
Yes.
So I got back home exhausted.
But what does that mean, exhausted? Because I love in the book how you say, I went to the doctor hoping there would be some explanation.
Yes.
They did all these tests on you and everything was fine.
Everything was fine. So it was a combination of exhaustion, low blood pressure, and just the body kind of giving up.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it was a wake-up call, you said.
It was a total wake-up call. But in these doctors' waiting rooms, I started asking the big questions.
Yes.
Like, what am I doing? And what is success?
Yeah.
Because by conventional definitions of success, as it happened, Time 100 had just picked me as one of the 100 most influential people.
Yes.
I happened to be at that particular month on the cover of Newsweek and Forbes. And yet, by any sane definition of success, I was not successful if I was lying in a pool of blood on the floor, right?
Falling from exhaustion. But Arianna, you do know when you walk in a room, heads turn. Like, oh my God, I've seen it. There's Arianna Huffington. Heads turn, and there are so many people looking at you saying, I want to be like that. But you said we really need to redefine success, that it used to be a badge of honor, running yourself into the grave or the ground. And so as you sit here today, your new definition of success is what?
My new definition of success is beyond the first 2 metrics of money and power or fame, to include a third metric. I'm not putting these 2 things down. I mean, they have their place in our lives.
Yes.
But without a third metric, life is not complete, life is not fulfilling. And that third metric consists of 4 pillars. Our well-being. First of all, if we are succeeding but undermining our health, it doesn't make any sense, because this is our human capital. If we are not nurturing our human capital, we are not really thriving. That's why I use the word thrive. And you're all getting a copy of The Galleys on your way out, so you can read it for yourself. But I'm sorry, we didn't have finished books, but we do now. So the second one is wonder. You know, so often we go through life so fast that we miss the wonder of life.
Yeah, that we don't stop. You talk about taking a plane ride to Germany.
Yes.
And noticing the beauty of that. You also talk about wisdom. I love
and
the
wisdom is the third pillar. You know, we are so hyper-connected to our technologies that we miss the connection with ourselves, which is in that place inside that we all have, that center of wisdom and strength and serenity. And we are so disconnected from it that I know when I look back at my life, my biggest mistakes were when I was disconnected from that place. So I missed the red flags. You know, you hire the wrong people. You overreact to things. You know, every one of our lives, even the luckiest and most blessed, there is no day that goes by where there are no obstacles, challenges, things you are not happy with. So how we react to them is dependent for me on how centered I am. And the final thing, the final pillar is giving. And I love the campaign that you and Jimmy Kimmel and Oprah and Julia Roberts have started about say hello.
Just say hello.
Just say hello.
Which, by the way, is one of your step number 2s.
Yes.
When I was leaving the Oprah Magazine and I was coming over here and I said, guess what Arianna says, step 2. During your day, make a personal connection with people you might normally tend to pass by and take for granted. The checkout clerk, the cleaning crew at your office. And at the magazine, we have a whole big thing about just say hello, reaching out to people. And I thought you were already onto something. But let's go back to April 7th. How did you change your life after that moment?
So you know how they say that there is something called keystone habit. Like, what is the habit that you change, which makes changing other things easier?
Yeah.
And for me, my keystone habit was sleep. I know you and I always talk about sleep, but
no, I wear the sleep band. I checked just because I knew I was doing this. Last night I got 3 hours and 46 minutes of sleep. Now I said, Arianna is not going to be happy about that.
No. So are you getting a nap today?
No, I don't know.
Okay, I have to do an intervention.
No. Arianna, I'm a mess. But you're saying sleep deprivation is one of the biggest problems, and it affects more women than men.
Yes.
And she has a great thing in the book, guys. She says, sleep your way to the top. And by that you mean, sleep your way to the top. And I know, isn't that good? I like that too. I wrote that down. Okay, so by that, so sleep deprivation is a real serious problem. So much so that at Huffington Post, they have nap rooms. Can you imagine if you had a nap room at work? But go ahead, talk about that. Talk about that. I love that.
So when I instituted the nap rooms 3 years ago, there was at first tremendous skepticism. Like, you know, journalists, they basically looked at me like, who is going to be seen walking into a nap room in the middle of the afternoon? Now they're perpetually full. Although,
and you encourage it.
I totally encourage it, because, you know, if you get tired in the middle of the afternoon, as we all often do, instead of going to have a cinnamon bar or the 14th cup of coffee, you know, go have 20 minutes of recharging nap. You know, many great leaders did that. You know, Winston Churchill famously did that. JFK did that. Leonardo da Vinci. It's not something unusual. Bill Clinton, I'll quote him in the book, saying that some of the biggest mistakes he ever made were because he was tired and exhausted, and he did not specify what mistakes, but...
Yes. Oh, is that it? Oh, it's hard. Okay. But do you really think that by getting more sleep, that turned out to be a game changer for you?
For me, it was a game changer. And I quote a lot of scientific studies about the value of sleep. In fact, you may think I have too many scientific studies. I have 55 pages of footnotes of these studies. But I really wanted to convince the most stubborn skeptic that these are not kind of soft, new agey things. These are sort of essential for our productivity, our creativity, and our health. So let's say we didn't care about anything else except being productive, creative, and successful, and nothing else in life. This is the ticket. And that's why I feel so strongly about it. Now, you know, practically every university has a sleep division.
Yes.
I was actually asked to join the Executive Council of the Harvard School of Medicine Sleep Division because I talk about it so much.
No. And you also practice what you preach. You say at Huffington Post, the statistics show that people, regardless of where you work, check your phone every 6.5 minutes. And we did something on CBS the other day that 90% of us have our smartphones with us 24/7, and they're never more than 3 feet away. That's true. So you say you don't want people checking their phones after hours. You don't want people checking their emails on the weekends.
Yes.
And I emailed some people at Huffington Post like, yeah, right. Is that really true? And they said, it's really true.
Yeah. What I say, if I or your manager emails you, you don't have to handle it then. Put it in a place and handle it after hours. Nobody is expected. There is no expectation that anybody will respond to emails. And now, a lot of companies are doing that. Volkswagen in Germany has instituted a policy. They give their managers office phones. They are automatically turned off at 6 p.m. and turned back on again at 7 a.m.
Yeah, it automatically does it. Wouldn't we like to work there? Oh my God. But the other thing I thought, Arianna, if I'm younger and I'm starting out and I'm trying to make my mark and I'm working really hard, how can I really say, see, I think it's easy for you to say because you're Arianna Huffington. But what about people that are just starting out? How can you realistically say, I'm not going to check my email, I'm going to take a nap? How can we really incorporate this? No, but I mean this. How can we incorporate this into our places of work so that people get that?
First of all, you're absolutely right. We need to change our place of work.
Yeah.
But also, what everybody needs to realize is that the modern workplace is different. Different traits are valued.
Yes.
The most important trait now is creativity. Like if you can be recharged and come up with a creative idea, isn't that more important to your employer than being there from 9 in the morning to 11 at night? We basically pay people for their judgment, not their stamina. And you can be at your desk from 9 until 11 updating your Facebook profile.
Yes.
It's like, or you can be there from 9 to 6, being really present, 100% there, giving it your all, and then going on and having your own life and recharging yourself. There was this op-ed that Erin Callan wrote in the New York Times. She was the CFO of Lehman Brothers. And she wrote about how she worked round the clock. She had no personal life. She destroyed her marriage. And she was now looking back about how she could have done it differently. And I thought to myself, not only did she destroy her life, but it wasn't exactly good for Lehman Brothers, which no longer exists.
Yes.
So that's the other thing. I think, where were all these chief executives at Lehman Brothers when the place was going down?
Yes.
Maybe if they had gotten a good 8-hour sleep, they might have seen the iceberg about to hit the Titanic.
No, I thought you really gave people a lot to think about. Your screensaver is a gazelle.
Yes.
Because?
So I learned about gazelles, and they're my role model now, because gazelles work really hard when there's a danger. They really run. But once the danger passes, once the lion or the leopard is far away, they graze. The stress goes, and human beings are not like that. We're in a perpetual fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And that's really that's the problem with our minds, because our minds, are either in the past judging us, or in the future worrying.
Yeah.
And I love, one of my favorite quotes is by Montaigne, who said, "There were many terrible things in my life, but most of them never happened."
Yes. One of my favorite quotes that you quote in the book was Mikhail Baryshnikov, who says, "I did not try to dance better than anyone else. I only try to dance better than myself."
Yes,
Talking about the stress. I love that too. I
love
like that
when
very
I was
much.
reading about you, when you were 40, you said you stopped judging yourself based on other people.
Yeah.
Because comparisons are really the worst thing we can do. We are our unique self.
Yep.
And there will always be somebody thinner, richer,
Prettier, skinnier,
whatever. And it doesn't matter. I did something similar when I was 40. I made a list of all the things.
And how old are you now?
I'm now 63. No, I say it all the time.
I know. Close your mouth. No, but I say own that. I meet some people, Arianna, sometimes, and I'll say, how old are you? And they go, Gayle. That's such a personal question. I go, why is that personal? Looking the way you do, doing the job that you do, why is that a personal question? Why wouldn't you want to celebrate that?
Yeah,
So I love that you own that you're 63. Okay, but go ahead. When you were 40, go ahead.
So when I was 40, I made a list of all the things that I thought I was going to do, that I wanted to do, but that realistically I was not going to do. Like learning to cook.
Me too. Me too.
Learning
I
to become
know.
a good skier, in my case. Learning German, whatever, just a long list. And I realized that you can actually complete a project by dropping it.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What I mean is that,
What do you mean?
that by making that list and saying, I'm not going to learn to cook, I'm not going to learn to ski, I'm going to give up skiing, and when my children go skiing, I'm going to sit by the fire and read a good book. Then suddenly I had this release of energy.
Ah, okay.
That all these incomplete projects, even if we're not doing anything about them, they drain energy because they're at the back of our head as something that I will one day maybe do.
Yeah.
I kind of eliminated my one day maybes.
One day okay.
And I stayed with the things I'm really going to do and put my energy into.
So is there anything that you beat yourself up about?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I used to beat myself up so much that it was really exhausting. Like, it was the most exhausting thing was my own self-judgments. In fact, I gave it a name. I called it the obnoxious roommate living in my head. Because it was like, I was hoping one day somebody would come up with a device that would record what the obnoxious roommate said about me, because my worst enemy wouldn't talk like that. You know, always putting me down, never, and nothing was ever good enough. And then I really learned to educate that part of myself. First of all, to realize that these thoughts were not me, you know, to dissociate myself from these thoughts and feelings, and treat it more like a toddler, you know, like educated.
Yeah.
And now, you know, it still makes guest appearances, but only guest appearances.
Yes, yes. And when they leave, you're okay with that. You get it. You don't take it in. And I think you're onto something. Nobody beats yourself up more than you beat yourself. And I'm talking about a generic you. You believe that ultimately women will redefine success.
Yes, I really
it's
feel
almost
that.
a revolution for us.
And I'm delighted to see there's one man in the audience here. So don't take this personally, but men have designed the world the way it is now. It's their world. And the two women's revolutions, the first was about giving us the vote.
Yes.
The second, you know, led by Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem, was about giving us access to everything, the top jobs, everything. And this is still an incomplete revolution, but I feel it's time for the third women's revolution, which is about changing the world in which we are participating and competing. That the world, the way it is designed now, is not working. It's not working for women. It's not working for men. It's not working for polar bears. It's not sustainable.
Are the polar bears stressed too?
Very stressed, incredibly stressed. It's really not a sustainable world. And I think that women have an opportunity to remake that world. You know, we say we need a seat at the table. We want to change the table.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, when we create a new world, and we're in the process of doing it, incidentally. This is, I mean, I write a lot about all the stuff that happened in 2013. 2013 was a kind of tipping point. And there are a lot of good men participating in those changes. But when we change, men will be so grateful, because I really want to talk about the cost of the current way we're doing things. The cost in terms of our health. 75% of our healthcare costs is for preventable, chronic, stress-related diseases. 75%.
Say that word, preventable.
Preventable
preventable
diseases.
Yes.
You know, 25% we have no control over, right? We have a gene, something, but 75% are preventable.
No, you say in the book, healthy employee, healthy bottom line.
Yes, exactly. There's no trade-off. Like, when we take care of our employees, it improves the bottom line of the company. You know, Mark Bertolini, the CEO of Aetna, he came out in 2013 not as being gay, but as being a meditator. He wrote.
And he had an issue too.
Yes, he actually had a skiing accident, broke his neck.
Yeah.
And was hooked on narcotics for a year, and then he discovered what he calls his cocktail: meditation, yoga, and acupuncture. And then he took it a step further. He made it available to his 49,000 Aetna employees. And then he brought Duke University to do a study about the impact. And they found out that it led to a 7% savings in healthcare costs and a 69 minute per day improvement in productivity.
Wow.
So these are measurable results. And when we say meditation, for somebody else it can be prayer. It can be some form of contemplative practice. It can be fly fishing. I don't care what it is. It's basically a time where we can disconnect from our world and our devices and reconnect with ourselves.
You also have the section about wisdom, and you talk about intuition, which to me is such a female trait. It's a hunch, that we have a hunch about things. I'm wondering, do you pay attention to your intuition always?
I now pay attention to it more and more. Because when I look back, because I started life as a very mental person, I realized how often, if I couldn't have a mental explanation for why I was feeling something, I would kind of rule it out. I would cancel it. Sometimes I would even wake up happy, and then my mind couldn't give me a reason. So I would cancel that too. So I had to.
So you pay attention.
I really pay attention.
You pay attention.
And all of us, if you think of it, how often we sort of know something.
Yes.
And we ignore that. And even some of the people we most admire, take Steve Jobs. He famously said to Walter Isaacson, his biographer, that some of the best ideas he had that led to the most iconic products were after Zen meditation. He said it was when my mind could be quiet and I could listen to the whisperings that otherwise we can't hear. Because
the whisperings are always there. I mean, you talk about your daughter Christina. I thought it was so touching that you shared about Christina's story, who had an issue with drugs, and she called you up and says, "Mommy, I can't breathe."
Yes.
So in the middle of all that was going on in your world, you have the issue with Christina.
Exactly.
How did you two get through that? Talk about that.
2 years ago, March 5th, 2012, she just celebrated her 2 years being sober. I got a call from New Haven. She was 2 months away from graduating from Yale.
From Yale, yeah.
And I got the call that every mother dreads, "Mommy, I can't breathe." And she was, which I didn't know, that she was having obviously a major issue becoming addicted to cocaine. And
you had no idea.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
She had dealt with anorexia before, so when I saw that she was losing weight, I kind of attributed to her anorexia. I got in touch with a therapist. It's amazing how much we can be fooled.
Yeah.
And I knew there was something wrong, because she used to say that I used to find any excuse to just go to New Haven. I would say, I'm going to speak at Williams College. It's on the way to New Haven. I was hoping she wouldn't look at the map.
Yeah.
And do all that. But, anyway, I had no idea. So that was the longest drive of my life, from New York to New Haven. But I kind of knew, I had this clarity about what to do. I knew I had to take her out. I said, "I don't care if you graduate."
You did?
Yeah.
And she was so close to graduating.
I said, you could say, "Hey, you have just 2 months."
Yes, some people would.
Stay here, that's so important. I said, "I don't care. We have to take you out of what has clearly become a toxic, stressful environment." And then we worked on it together. I kept her home because I think sometimes if people go to a rehab center and then they can't integrate their lives when they come back.
And you were able to do this without anybody knowing. No one knew really until Christina told her story.
Yes, because I felt it was her story and her life.
Yes.
And I felt it was important that she was the one to speak about it first.
Yeah, yeah.
And so on her first anniversary, she decided to write about it.
I remember that.
And because she wanted to help other young men and women. And then she went back to Yale this fall and got her degree.
Yes.
And now she's working with Participant Media in Los Angeles.
Oh, I've seen her, and she like her mother is a badass. I've seen her in action. But I just think as working mothers, how, people always say, how do we juggle it? How do we juggle it? What advice did you give her? How did you two get through this together?
So, the first thing was to to start focusing on what we are grateful for, ironically.
You talk about that
In
a
the
lot.
middle of a crisis,
Gratitude.
we said, we are grateful you're alive.
Yeah.
We are grateful you want to get well. We are grateful you have a loving family around you.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually started doing a gratitude list with 3 other friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that she has continued to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I really believe in,
I do too. I do too. You talk about the importance of writing it down.
Yes.
And people always think, Arianna, that when you say a gratitude, it has to be something really big. Sometimes, it would get to the point, or somebody held the elevator open for me.
Yes.
When I was running late, or I walked out and a cab was there right when I needed it. Where you just notice small things that you had never paid attention will make a huge difference in your life.
Absolutely, because every day is a mixture
Yes.
of good things and not so good things. So if we can learn to focus on the blessings, and it creates a certain attitude. I have a lot of quotes, as you know, in
Yes.
the book that have meant a lot to me
I
throughout
love
life.
it. Yes.
My favorite quote that I have in my wallet, on my desk, everything is by Rumi. He said, "Live life as though everything is rigged in your favor."
Yes. I know. I
And
love that
I
too.
love that because
Yes.
so often, we have a tendency to feel self-pity, to feel like victimized, to feel life isn't fair.
Yes.
And if we can turn that around
Yes.
and realize when we look back that even some of the most painful things that happened in our lives have led to other things that were extraordinary. I always tell the story of the man I was in love with for 7 years in London in my 20s. He was twice my age and half my size. And
Twice your age and half your size, smaller than you.
but he was an amazing writer. I fell in love with his mind. And he was kind of my mentor in writing. Anyway, the bottom line is he didn't want to have children. He didn't want to get married. I was 30 by then. I really wanted to have children. And we're living in London together. So I decided that I would leave London because I didn't trust myself if I stayed there not to go back, and move to New York. And really, everything that happened in my life, my children, the Huffington Post, being here with you, happened because a man wouldn't marry me.
But at the time, you didn't think that this was a good thing, did you?
No, at the
Or did
time,
you?
I thought I was devastated.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, that when you look back at your life, a lot of life doesn't make sense except when you look back, right? When
So
you look at
true.
your life, don't
That's
you
why
find?
it's called wisdom, yes.
Yes. A lot of the things that happened, you never knew that
Yes.
they would lead to something else,
Right,
and then
right.
something else.
And it's interesting how you can look back with wisdom and things that seem so devastating really are not. When you look, it's like a blip on the radar screen
Yes.
of your life. You talk too about we're a culture obsessed with time, and the more we use our time-saving devices, the more rushed we feel, that money can't buy happiness, and the problem is it also can't buy you more time, that more rich people, would you think would have all the time in the world, are not, you call it time famine and time affluence.
Yes, we're all living
Your mom
in a-
was a good time affluence person
Yes.
you write about.
I
like
write
your
a lot
mom.
about my mom. The book is
Yes.
dedicated to her. She lived a third metric life before
It
I
was
knew
even
there
in
was such a
vogue,
thing.
yes.
And you talk a lot about your mom,
Yes.
Peggy.
I always say people that have their moms, they're so lucky when you're an adult, yes. Yes,
But
yes.
also people who have moms like ours who, a story that you said about your mom has stayed with me, which is that one day she sat down and transcribed the words
Yes.
to your favorite song.
Yeah, to my guy, yeah.
Yes.
I was in 6th grade, yeah.
The sort of little things like that. I remember my mom getting up at 4 in the morning because I was taking an early flight and she wanted me to have an apple or something to take with me. And
But she knew the importance of time,
She
your
was-
mother.
yes,
She
she
knew.
was-
And that's what you're trying to make us see, that, this rush, really you just have to figure out a way to be time affluent.
yes, John Kabat-Zinn, who
Yes.
teaches mindfulness, he just says all the time, looks at his watch and says, "It's now." And then he
I like that. It's now.
and then he looks at it again and says, "It's now again." So if we can just, my mother used to say, don't miss the moment. If we can just be in the moment, because really that's all we have.
And John Kabat-Zinn, in the Asian culture, heart and mind mean the same thing.
The same thing, exactly. So when we talk about mindfulness, we also mean heartfulness.
Yes.
Like right now, we are completely present. Like, I mean, I'm sure you have 1,000 things that you haven't done. I have to catch a plane to LA, but we're not.
I'm catching a plane to North Carolina. What time is your plane? I am too. Yes.
So, you know, but here we are. And if you are here, I don't see anybody on their devices. And we are present. You know, we are in this moment. The last time my mother died in 2000. The last time she was angry with me before she died was when she saw me opening letters, actually. That's how long ago it was, not even email. Opening letters and talking to my children at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. You
And
said
she said to me, I abhor, if you think I have a strong accent, you should have heard my mother. She said, I abhor multitasking. She used to.
I abhor what?
Multitasking.
Oh, multitasking.
Yeah, she
okay.
thought, she kept talking about unitasking. And that anytime we really, and if we're in love, if we really want to do something, we're 100% present. And if we live life like that, it just transforms it. You know, one of the things, I used to be like a compulsive multitasker. I don't think I ever got dressed or put my makeup on without being on the phone to my office, you know, discussing things, so unpacking, packing, always like doing something else at the same time, which meant I would often forget things. I would have to like then retrace my steps to find passports, money, wallets, phones, you know, like all that wasted energy. And also not really be present. The other thing I changed now recently is I used to walk into my, you won't like that, Gayle.
What?
I used to walk into my apartment or a hotel room and turn on the television.
I still do that.
I know you do that.
I know. I read in the book that wherever she goes, and you said you don't do that. It drives me crazy not to. I walked in yesterday before I even take off my coat. I swear to God, before I take off my coat, I go click on the TV comes up. I just like the sound. I like to know what's going on before I even take off my coat and shoes. But I thought Arianna would not like that. But you stopped doing that.
I stopped doing that. First of all, I used to think like you. We're in the news business. You have to know everything. Well, the truth is that it's so repetitive.
I know. Not on CBS, it's not. But I know.
Yeah, but it's like when I turn on MSNBC now, it's still about Chris Christie and the bridge. And I think it's like, how long? Like, how many months is it? How many is like? And I think it feels like this is the same story. And so I don't exactly. Yes. I don't really feel I'm missing anything. You know, you can catch up so quickly on these things. You know, you can just go down your Twitter feed and you have the latest news in seconds.
But total silence drives me crazy.
But
you're saying that, but that's what we should be practicing.
Yes, practicing silence, and also practicing. You know, I actually happen to love Super Soul Sunday.
Yes.
So I played a lot. You know what I'm saying? I play things that I mean, I may listen to it 6 times, or I may listen to poetry.
Yeah, Oprah's Super Soul Sunday, which, by the way, I called her when I was coming here. I said, I'm on my way to talk to Arianna. She goes, oh, she's coming on Super Soul Sunday. I'm so excited to talk to her. She's already read the book, too. So you're coming up. But she's also believes the way you do. She has no TVs in the bedroom. Who does that? No TV in the bedroom. But she believes that there's a place for television, too.
I think
she can go weeks and never turn it on.
No. I mean, there's definitely a place for television, and I do TV with CBS This Morning, and I watch it, you know, on my treadmill. But I really feel that there is a need for a sacred space. Whatever. And
everybody should create their own
sacred space. It could be a tiny. If you live in a one-room apartment, find a corner, which is your sacred space.
What are we doing in the corner?
So my
What am I doing? I go to a corner, and what do we do?
We have time out in the corner. The corner is for time out.
Do I face the wall? No, I'm joking. But in the sacred space, what do you want us to do?
So I want, first of all, I want us to have no devices in the sacred space. No devices allowed. No technology is allowed in the sacred space. We've got to read real books if we want a book in the sacred space. I personally, in my sacred space, I want to have a flower, even if it's just one flower. I want to have things that mean something to me.
You.
I was in Dharamsala recently in India, where I saw the Dalai Lama. That's where he lives, and I brought a little tiny Buddha statue. I also have a cross.
You gave it to him?
No, no. I bought it. And
Oh, I thought you said I brought it and you gave it to him. Okay.
No, no.
What did he say?
That would have been a little bit.
What did he say when you gave the Dalai Lama Buddha? Okay, got it. I misunderstood.
He said.
No, you said you bought one. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
I gave it to him, and he said I should look into this Buddhism thing.
But we shouldn't miss the point, because everybody feels, you're working, you've got children, you're working, in many cases, paycheck to paycheck. It seems like a monumental task to take the time for yourself.
Okay, but the studies that I quote in the book
Yeah.
show that
We must.
in extreme circumstances, I mean, I even quote people in concentration camps, but also in circumstances of real challenge. You're losing your job, your company is downsizing, and your child is going through a crisis, whatever. That's when we most need to reconnect with ourselves and our own inner strength and resilience. There's a study of what happened when Bell in Illinois downsized by 50%. It was one of the biggest corporate downsizings. And they followed what happened to the people who were downsized. And 50% fell apart. They developed, the heart disease, diabetes, different medical problems, or they became addicted to drugs, alcohol, got divorced. 1/3 thrived through it. It they used that to find resources they never thought they had, and ended up, starting companies, getting better jobs. So you just follow that, and you see that we are bigger than our circumstances.
You're always so calm and so mellow, Arianna. So what happens when you get really pissed off and angry?
Oh, it's
What
not
do you
that I
do?
don't get angry.
You
it's
do get
two
angry.
things. Yes, I do
Yeah.
get angry. I think I feel that I've become more like a child. That's like my ambition is not to not get angry. I think that's not human. I mean, we are flawed human beings. But look at children. They get angry,
Yes.
and then like 2 minutes later,
Yes.
sunshine.
Yes.
It's like
So
nothing
true.
happened. They cry. I mean, I cry a lot. And then
You
2
cry a
minutes,
lot?
Yeah, I love crying.
Do you? But it's true about kids. They get angry, and then 2 minutes later, they're fine.
It's over. So to tell people, don't get angry, don't be upset, don't be whatever, or any emotion. I think we are going to feel all these emotions. The important thing is not to cling to the emotions.
Yeah. Yes.
The thing is not to feel the emotions.
Yes.
And also when people say you need to develop a thick skin, I don't believe in that.
You don't.
I think when you develop a thick skin, you're also not permeable to good things. I want all emotions to go through me, in and out fast. That's really, I had a dream once. Actually, I didn't write about that in the book, but I had a dream that I was on a train. And the train was going home to God. I actually believe in God. But even if you don't believe in God, you can practice these things.
Yeah.
So the train
Most people believe in something, even
Yes.
if it isn't God. Yeah.
So the train was going home to God. And then I began to realize it's a metaphor for my life, right? And in the compartment with me were my family and my close friends. And we have a choice who we let in the compartment. If somebody is toxic, don't let them into your life's compartment.
So agree with
You
that.
have no choice about your family. You're
Yeah.
stuck with them.
Yeah.
But
you don't have to let
But
toxic
you don't
people.
any
You're
other
so
because
right.
this is it, and the train keeps going, and everything that happens in our life is scenery. Like on a train, some of it is beautiful, gorgeous
yeah.
scenery, but you
Yeah.
can't cling to that either.
Yes. I like what you're saying about children, though. I hadn't thought of it that way, that they can get really angry and
Yes.
ticked off, and then 2 minutes later they're singing "Let It Go."
And they don't even remember. It's almost like it's really not remembering it.
Yes.
One
I
of
like
the things,
this.
at the end of each chapter, I have these 3 points, 3 simple things that we can do. Because my biggest fear is that people will read the book and agree to it and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
To say, yes, she's right, I agree with that,
Yeah.
and then move on.
Yeah.
So I would consider this a complete failure. I want the book to be a bridge to changing certain habits. And that's why I wanted to make it very easy, nothing complicated.
Yeah, it is.
I just want to read
Something
one thing.
anybody can do.
I mean, like at the end of the wisdom chapter.
Yeah.
I have just 3 simple things.
I started that.
The first one is listening to your inner wisdom. It's page, I don't know what it is. You have the Gayle, I have the finished copy.
Okay. But I know what you're talking about, yeah.
It's listening to your inner wisdom. Let go of something today that you no longer need. It could be resentments, negative self-talk, or a project you're not really going to complete. Just every day, just let go of something. Little, it could be tiny. The second thing is start a gratitude list. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. And the third thing, have a specific time at night when you regularly turn off your devices and gently escort them out of your bedroom.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Gently escort them out of the bedroom.
Disconnecting from the digital world.
And everybody can do that.
Everybody can do that.
You also talk about, and this is something that most people don't talk about, the wonder, the importance of wonder.
Yes.
Wonder. What do you mean by that? I just love the word of that because it takes me back to to my childhood. I maintain you've never seen an unhappy child skip. Try skipping. Skipping and singing. You don't see anybody who's unhappy that's skipping. It makes me smile every time I see kids skipping, boys and girls, because they're so happy. That to me is a moment of wonder.
Of wonder.
What does that mean for you? Wonder. What do you?
Well, I start that chapter by that moment that you mentioned. I was in Munich, who had just launched the Huffington Post in Germany, and I was in the car driving back to the airport, and it was raining. And suddenly I was looking, and the city looked completely magical. It was a new city. Mm-hmm. I was looking at things I didn't know. And then I arrived at the airport, and literally everybody was complaining about the rain. And I thought to myself, at a different time, in a different city, I would be complaining about the rain.
Yeah.
So it's just like our attitude.
Yeah.
That changes how we see something. You walk down the streets of New York, hardly anybody is looking at anything.
I know.
We are on our phones, some people are texting and walking. What are we missing along the way?
When you think about wonder, do you ever think about this? That you're Arianna Huffington, and there is Huffington Post, and it is named after you. Do you ever have a moment where you go, wow? I'm not kidding. I remember when that deal was signed. I'm kidding. I just thought, wow, go Arianna, such a badass. Do you have that moment yourself where you just go, wow?
No, I have the moment when I think that I'm kind of lucky I married and divorced a man called Huffington. Because the Stasinopoulos Post would not have done as well.
No, this is the other thing. I want to get back to the Huffington Post for sure, but I do love that you write that you all are divorced, but this is what I thought was so nice, because I'm divorced too, and I think when you have children, this is very important to figure out a way to work it out. I always say he wasn't a good, I thought he was a shitty husband, but he's a good father. So I'm talking about myself, I'm not talking about your husband.
I'll say the same.
But you said we have a bond that transcends all grievances we've built up through the years. We spent a lot of time on vacation and on many others since strolling down memory lane with our girls, taking fanciful forays into the future. Our marriage may be over, but this is what I like. Our marriage may be over, but our relationship wasn't, and it isn't. I just think that is so important, because so many women are so ticked off at him that the children suffer in the middle.
Yes.
And children should never have to choose sides and never have to wonder. And I love that the two of you have figured out a way to navigate it. But you're right. So you married a guy named Huffington. It was Huffington Post. But the point I'm making here is that it was so much money and so successful. And when you first started it, did you ever think it could be this? Now it's gone from Huffington Post to HuffPo. It's kind of like the cool thing that people say and do. I saw it on Huffington Post. I'm writing for Huffington Post. I read Huffington Post. Did you ever think it could be this?
Not when we started. We started with 5 people.
Wow.
We got terrible reviews on day one. I've actually learned one of them by heart, because I like to sort of remind people of how failure is sort of part of success.
Terrible
It's
review.
like along the way to success. It actually, that first review said the Huffington Post is an unsurvivable failure. We were like 7 hours into our failure.
Wow.
It said it is the movie equivalent of Gigli, Ishtar, and Heaven's Gate, all rolled into one. Yes. The woman who wrote that review, a year later, reached out to me and said, I was wrong. You've become an indispensable part of the internet. I would like to write for you.
What? No kidding.
And I
No,
said,
okay, when you read that, did that hurt your feelings? Did it make you angry? Did it make you
no,
doubt
I
yourself?
felt great. I welcomed her with open arms because here's the thing I
No,
learned.
when you first read that review.
Oh, yes, I was crying.
You were.
Well, I remember.
Well, we know
actually,
you like to cry.
You know, somebody that I remember very well that I was on. I was at the airport because I was flying to Boston that day, and I was on the phone. You know, a mutual friend of us, David. I was on the phone with him, crying, saying, "This is so upsetting. Look what she wrote." And he was like saying, "Oh, guys, you won't even remember it." You know, it was like he was giving me sage advice. But yes, and I also think it's so important to have a tribe of close friends that you can call and cry with.
Yes.
You know, where you don't have to always be up.
Absolutely agree.
Because nobody's ever always up.
So you didn't have a second thought about hiring her? The woman who came to you and said, I want to write for you?
No, I really, you know, here's the thing. I have the Carrie Fisher quote in the book saying, resentment is a poison you drink thinking someone else will die.
Yes.
And
Yes. I love that, yes.
and you know,
Aren't the quotes good? The quotes are good, yeah.
the worst thing we can do is hold a grudge. I really profoundly believe that. My goal is every day, every night to be able to go to bed having fully forgiven myself. It has to start with self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
For whatever mistakes I made during the day, and forgiving everyone else. You know, I really so profoundly believe that it's something I aspire to. I don't always do it well, but it's my aspiration.
That is good. And the last pillar of the third metric is giving. Why is giving so important? You have a new phrase that I'm going to adopt where you said, don't be a go-getter, be a go-giver. And if people put more emphasis on that part, we would all be better off. Why is that so important to you?
For many reasons. First of all, it's what completes life. There's amazing scientific evidence again that giving is the fastest way to happiness. I mean, amazing research.
The fastest way to happiness.
The fastest way to happiness is giving. They've given money to two groups, and they told one group to spend it on themselves and another group to spend it on others. And the people who spend it on others
felt better.
I just had dinner with a very prominent CEO who owns a lot of companies.
What's the name? We might know.
You know, actually, let me say who it is. Miles Nadal. You know, he owns a lot of companies.
CEO of what?
He's a CEO of a holding company. They keep buying companies and adding value to them, etc. And at dinner, you know, he could be talking about the latest company he bought, what he's doing. He started telling me the story of an employee of theirs who was going through a very difficult birth in Florida, and she was going to lose the baby, and he found out about it. And there was one doctor in America who was an expert in the problem she was having, and he personally flew him to her bed, saved the baby, and he had just gotten a letter from her.
See, we should know his name. Say his name again.
Miles, M-I-L-E-S, Nadal, or Nadal, I'm sorry, I don't know how do you pronounce it.
Special mommy hugged him.
N-A-D-A-L.
Yeah.
But it was like, you should have seen
saved
it.
the baby.
Saved the baby. And the mother, it was really a very awful situation. And he was like beaming.
Yeah. That he could do that.
That he could do that. It's like David Letterman, he was just quoted in the New York Times saying, the only times I've been really happy is when I was able to do something for others that they could not have done for themselves.
Yes.
I mean, we have so many examples of that.
Yes.
And I think there is something else that I realized while as I was writing the book and I was trying to understand why, which is that however successful we are, anytime we want to achieve something else in addition to our success, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You want the show to be successful. I want the book to be successful. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're coming from a certain place of lack.
Yeah.
Like we want something that we don't have, even if we have
what appears
everything,
to be a lot. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
every time we give, however little we have,
Yeah.
we come from a place of abundance.
Yeah.
Like we're giving. That means we
Absolutely
have
agree
all
with
that.
You also think it's important, too, to instill in your children. You tell a very nice story about Isabella and the birthday party.
Yeah, Isabella is my youngest
Your
daughter.
youngest daughter.
And when we
How old
lived,
was she?
When we lived in Washington, she was 5, Christina was 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my children volunteering from that age.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, we were volunteering in Anacostia
Mm-hmm.
at a place, it's in a place called Children of Mine
Mm-hmm.
for underprivileged children. And by coincidence, that day, one of the children there was having her 5th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And her entire birthday celebration, her birthday cake, her gift was one big chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
And as it happened, Isabella had just celebrated her 5th birthday party the day before. And it was, balloons and birthday cakes, and she wanted Dalmatian dogs and, and gifts, etc. And so I saw her. She was with her sister at the other end of the room near the little girl. And I saw her with tears streaming down her eyes. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start crying now. And
that was very touching.
She rushed up to me and said, "Mommy, I want to go home and collect all my presents and bring them to that little girl." Mm-hmm. And we did. Now, that doesn't mean Isabella became Mother Teresa. She's had plenty of selfish moments since. But it was a reference point.
That's right. That's right.
It was very deep. There was nothing.
At such a young age. That's why I thought that was.
There was nothing that I could have said.
Yeah.
To her that would have had that impact. That's why I feel as parents, if we can create opportunities to expose our children mm-hmm. to have experiences like that, it also means that they can begin. When one of my daughters was going through anorexia, I had her. We're living in LA at the time. I had her volunteer at a place called Home in South Central, mm-hmm. and it was so important for her to see, the problems that children are facing mm-hmm. there. Mm-hmm. And how they compare to her problems. In the same way, I write in the book when a friend of mine lost her job. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, as you are looking for another job, I said, now you have time to volunteer. I should connect you with a place called Home that I was on the board of. And she looked at me like I was really heartless.
Yes.
Like I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, what she was going through.
What she was going through. Yeah. But she did it. And it was like, it transformed her. Yeah. It put her problems in perspective. She got a job faster. I really believe that.
Mm-hmm. You do?
Yes, I believe that she got a job faster because she wasn't so down on herself, mm-hmm. Feeling like I lost my job, I'm a victim. And she told me that story, at a place called Home, they do this circle where people go around forgiving. Mm-hmm. And she said, I was in that circle and I forgave my daughter for forgiving my birthday. Yeah. And the woman, get goosebumps, next to me, forgave her father for killing her mother.
Yeah, sort of puts it in perspective there. This is Arianna Huffington. The name of the book is Thrive, the 3rd metric to redefining success, creating a life of well-being, wisdom, and wonder. And in the words of Arianna Huffington, onward, upward, and
inward.
Inward. Don't you like that? That's her phrase. Thank you, Arianna.